Yo, this new show, Ambitions, is the shit. Let's talk about it, y'all. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is Ambitions Season 1, Episode 1, and the name of this episode is Friends and Lovers. This was a great episode, and I am so here for this show. Shout out to the creators, Will Packer and Jamie Giddens. You guys did this shit, because this show was fucking epic. And I am just so here to see how everything falls apart. And how everything falls into place. Because there's so many detonators that are being set that it's insane. And a whole bunch of sex. A whole bunch of tension. A whole bunch of ambition. And a whole lot of, scandal. All in one. Just one of the perfect shows here. And it's definitely, I think, going to be a big hit on OWN. So, let me begin. The episode starts off with Amira and Titus Hughes. They're a married couple. They've been married for 20 years. They just moved to Atlanta from Birmingham. They're pretty much in bed with each other. And they're kind of getting all freaky. And then all of a sudden, Amira says, I love your hands on me. And that just sent Titus off. And he was like, you ain't never said that shit to me before. And then she's like, look, we just moved here. This is a fresh start. When are you going to stop punishing me? He meant nothing to me. And then he pinned her down and was like, he meant nothing? Well, I remember his name, Damian Collins. And I will remember, I remember that name and I always will. And he got up and left, and then she gets all emotional. So we come to find out she cheated on her husband, back in Birmingham, and they moved to Atlanta for a fresh new start. So this is interesting. Then we get a scene with Stephanie. And Amira Hughes is played by Essence Atkins. And I think his name is Kendrick, but I forgot his last name. But he's playing the role of Titus. So then we see Stephanie, who's played by Robin Gibbons. She's the main character. She's in this scene where her sister Tracy has overdosed or whatever, and she's freaking out and everything, like calling ambulance. And then all of a sudden we see Evan, who's her husband, played by Brian White, and he was like, ain't no need to call nobody, she's dead, and you're next. And then he puts a gun to her head, and then all of a sudden she's screaming, no, Evan, no. And then all of a sudden we come to find out she's having a nightmare. She wakes up, and then we see the next morning her and Evan are pretty much, Evan is actually the mayor of Atlanta, and he mentions when she comes for breakfast that she seemed restless or whatever. But then she's like, oh no, I feel very refreshed. Everything is fine. And then we meet their daughter, Carly. And the girl who plays Carly was the girl who played Olivia on Star. So it's cool that she got a job because, Star was canceled, unfortunately. And I'm still mad that it's gone because it was a great show. And their daughter, Carly, is she's a student at Spelman College. And she wants to become an actress. That's her passion. But her mother, Stephanie, wants her to get a more serious major. Meaning she wants her to go to pre-law, and actually follow the family business. Because we come to find out, they, as far as the Carlisles, because, Stephanie's name is Stephanie Carlisle Lancaster. And Lancaster is, of course, her husband's last name, Evan. But the Carlisles are pretty much a family from lawyers, even going back to her grandfather. And it's pretty much been a generation of attorneys throughout their family. And she wants her daughter to keep up with that tradition, but she doesn't even want to do that. And then her father asks her about this guy, Khalil, who she's dating. And and she's pretty much saying that, well, we're cool, it's not that serious. And she was like, well, it's a good thing, because obviously, and it just goes to show you how ambitious they are. Like, they want her to date this guy because the guy's parents, they own a manufacturing company in China, and he wants to talk him about starting a chain in Atlanta to kind of boost up their economy. So I'm like, everybody got their own mission as to why they doing shit. And I was like, wow. So we kind of saw that go on in that scene. Then we get a scene where we meet Rondell Lancaster. She's Evan's older sister. And, they up in there. She's up in there. They up there jamming to New Edition and everything. She pretty much runs a diner called Thelma's Place, which is like their family business. And we come to, and then all of a sudden, while they up in there jamming, listening to New Edition and everything, we meet Peters. Peters is this, is this corporate conglomerate who wants her to sell her business, because he's trying to do corporate gentrification, tear down the black businesses and the black block so he can put up all of his developments on that block. And Thelma's Place is the main place he needs to get, because without it, he won't be able to build, to build his project. So him and Rondell just have a lot of tension with each other, and I'm even thinking that this tension is so strong that they kind of somewhat are attracted to each other, where at least Peters is attracted to her, and I think he likes the fact that she's so aggressive and she fights hard. And then, she said that, look, you won't be able to do that, because if I get time and get enough signatures, you won't be able to take this. I'll shut you down. And he's like, I don't know why you fighting so hard, to keep this dive. I mean, anything could happen. Like, it could get caught on fire, and, you wouldn't want your dad to be caught in that, not being able to free himself. And she tells him, you need to leave while you still have the chance. Oh, and Peters, you threaten my family, I will stick this blade so far up your ass you will need a colonoscopy to find it. I was like, bitch! Oh, I love me some Rondell. Rondell ain't a scared bitch. But then, all of a sudden, he walks up on the knife, and you see the knife pierces him, and there's blood. And he's saying that, you need to be careful when you make threats like that. You need to be ready to carry him out. You need to be careful, because Atlanta could be a rough city after dark. And I was like, and then all of a sudden he walked off, and she was like, your cheap ass suit. I was rolling, but I'm like, that damn Peters is a dangerous dude, and he wants what he wants, and he's willing to take her down to get it by any means. So then we see that Amara Hughes, she's an assistant U.S. attorney, and Julia, who works with her, and Julia was the one that actually got her to transfer from her position in Birmingham to her location there in Atlanta. And she brings up this case against Mayor Evans Lancaster. And it's a case about patronage, money laundering, embezzlement. She wants her to investigate this, in regards to the mayor's office. And she's pretty much saying that, look, doing a case like this can put your name on the path, and even mine. I mean, after all, I helped you to get here. And this is her friend Julie's talking, and she's saying that I don't want to get involved in this, because for one, it's close to me, because her husband, his wife, I went to college with his wife, and the mayor's her husband. Like, I don't want to get involved in that. So she turns it down, and we come to find out that, yes, she was transferred from Birmingham. I already mentioned that. So then we go to the Carlisle and Perkins firm, which is Stephanie's family's firm. We meet Stephanie's parents. Her father's name is Steven, so she's named after her dad. Her name is Stephanie. We meet them. We meet the mother. The mother is there. She has a conference room because she's putting together a foundation event, which actually does happen in this episode. So she's doing some last minute prepares, and their father let her have a conference room, and she tells the two of them, y'all play nice, because father and daughter definitely, they both are power heads and they be going for it. So pretty much, Stephanie talks with her father, Steven, and she puts out her plea like, look, Dad, with things going on now, and everything is up and running, why don't you go help Mom more and cut your workload down and let me take over the day-to-day management? Because Stephanie wants to be the head of the family firm. And then the father flipped it on her. He was like, you can't even control that bottom-feeding husband of yours. What makes you think you can run my law firm? And she was like, but you the one who stopped me from divorcing him. He's like, oh, so now it's my fault. I'm like, well, you the one that said it'll be good to have a son-in-law who's a mayor and that it'll be good for business. I'm saying everybody is making moves and it's all for interest. Ain't no love, ain't no honesty. It's all about a game, and everybody's playing games, even with marriage, relationships, all that shit. And he pretty much tells her that, look, you lack certain skills. And she's like, oh, so you mean penis and the testicles? That I can walk around and talk all big shit in the big boys' room and shit? That's what you telling me? And he was like, see, that's why you're not ready. You're a brilliant attorney, Stephanie, but you got a lot to learn, and you need me here to teach you. And he's like, oh, yeah. And don't think I don't know about you dining and swoozing with the senior partners of the firm. So this is what you need to do. You need to get that sorry-ass husband of yours to play ball. And any more of your schemes or your shenanigans, your ass is out, daughter or not. And then he says, and he kisses her and he walks out, and she was like, we'll see about that, Daddy. I'm like, oh, that bitch is vindictive. She is gonna go for what she wants, and she don't give a shit. So then we get a scene with Titus, and he's working with his new client, Mr. Purifoy, who's the head of a pharmaceutical company. And we see that there's a case against him that's being led by Stephanie and her father. They want to take him down, because, he pretty much, he pretty much sells opioids. And pretty much he talks, Mr. Purifoy talks about this with Titus, and he was saying that, that Stephen Carlisle and that bitch of a daughter of his, they've been coming after me for decades. And they talk about the drug, Limidol, which is an opioid. He says this drug is actually helping people, and I be damn, I'm gonna let them take me down, off of some personal shit. We come to find out later what that is. But then they talk about, and then Titus suggests that, there's a gala that they're holding, and and won't you make an appearance and make a donation? Pretty much, there's an opioid epidemic, and you need to get in the front of it. And then all of a sudden he was like, see, that's why I'm glad I took you out of private practice and put you on my team. A young brother like you. And he was like, a young brother like me, liberal racism, work with black people when it's convenient for him. So he's saying that, a young brother like you can go far in Atlanta. With my backing, I want you and your wife to sit at my table. And then he says that, and then he pretty much warns her, and then he pretty much warns him about Stephanie. You need to watch her because she's wicked as a damn rattlesnake. And then we see that Stephanie's going through the firm. She got all these stacks of folders, and about the case and everything. And And then all of a sudden she gets into the conference room. She's like, so what incumbent they send now to talk about Purifoy Pharmaceuticals? And he was like, and all of a sudden you heard a voice, is that right? She immediately knew that it was Titus Hughes. So Titus and Stephanie definitely have a history. They used to date in college, and what happened is that he cheated on Stephanie with her friend Amara, who is now his wife. They've been married for 20 years. And now they're there to get a fresh new start because Amara cheated on Titus during that marriage while they were back in Birmingham. So, but we kind of see that there's this cat and mouse thing between Titus and Stephanie. And you can tell that the tension is heavy as well as the attraction. It's so obvious. And she says, well, you know, the thing is with me and you, Titus, we were lovers, we were comrades, we were even enemies, but we were never friends. So we already see that, yeah, shit's crazy. So then after that, we get a scene with Peters, and he meets up with no other than Mayor Evan Lancaster. And Evan was like, so I heard you went to go visit my sister. He pretty much, and then Peters was like, you know the thing about family? They either can amount to your greatness or they can be your Achilles heel. And he tells him, leave my sister alone. He's like, look, I need that block to ensure my developments, and you need my backing if you ever want to become the first black governor of Atlanta. And he lets her know, I'll handle my sister. And he's like, well, one of us better. And see you at the gala. You know, giving back to the community. I'm like, that damn Peters is an evil bastard. But we also see that Evans, you know, he's got one foot, you know, he comes from a blue collar family. And he's kind of married into this white collar world. So it's like he got one foot, you know, where he is supportive of his family, and then he got the other foot where he's actually supportive of his career, and also with the connection to the family that he's married into, which is the Carlisle family. So then after that, we see that Stephanie is with this girl Bella, and she's a fashion designer and a stylist, and she personally has been styling for Stephanie. And we come to find out that the gala is in tribute to her sister, who actually died from an overdose, an opioid overdose. So pretty much, you know, she asks Bella, so who are you bringing to the gala? She says, I'm taking Roderick, you know, he's handy, you know, and they kind of have like a little girl chat with each other. And she was saying that, you know, the one thing about relationships is that, you know, they're complicated. 1 minute you're having the greatest sex of your life, and then you want to kill them. So they having like this kiki, and I'm like, man, wait till you see how this shit unfolds. And I'm going to get back to that. So she pretty much tells her, you know, have fun while you can. Then we get a scene with Amara and Titus. They're talking about their daughter Deja, who's in boarding school, and she's really having issues because she wants to be home. And she was saying that, yeah, but you know, Amara's like, but we're giving her great opportunity and more exposure, you know, by her being at this boarding school. But then Titus is like, but there are great schools here in Atlanta, you know. And then she was like, well, you know, do you want to skip the gala? And he was like, well, the thing is, I can't, you know, because, you know, Mr. Pomeroy, yeah, Mr. Purifoy wants him to appear at the gala with him. And also he's saying that, but then she doesn't want to go because they're going to be in the same room with Stephanie. Stephanie and Amara really haven't seen or talked to each other in over 20 years since they had that fallout in college. They were sorority sisters and best friends, and quite frankly, you sleep with, if you sleep with your man, you pretty much sleep with my man, that's gonna kill everything. And he's saying that, are you gonna be okay being in the same room with Stephanie? And he says that, look, we got it together, you know, um, that was college. And then he pretty much says, I leave. He pretty much says, I gotta go. And she's like, you didn't even finish your lunch. She's like, look, I gotta run. So from the looks of it, we see that Stephanie's in a bubble bath, and then all of a sudden we see that Titus comes in, and he was like, I got here as soon as I could. So he pretty much strips down, gets into the bubble bath, and they were literally busting suds with each other. Like, oh yes, they were making lots and lots of bubbles. But it was a damn daydream that she was having in the tub, so she is longing for that chocolate Titus to tear her up. So she obviously is longing for Titus, and this is interesting. So then we get the gala, and we see that Stephanie and Mayor Evan Lancaster, they are the power couple of Atlanta. They are literally the it couple. They shut down the red carpet. We see that her parents arrive ahead of her with their daughter Carly. They smile for the red carpet. They're trying to go after this opioid epidemic, and it's in celebration of her sister Tracy, who died from a drug overdose. And then we see, and she says that, oh, so what are you wearing tonight, darling? She's like, oh, I'm wearing an original Bella True. And then we see that Bella shows up with Roderick, who's a former Atlanta Falcons running back. That's her dude. And they all do the pleasantries with each other. Oh, you look nice. Oh, you look very handsome. All of that. So then we see Amara and Titus arrive. We can see Amara is nervous because this is the first time her and Stephanie are gonna interact with each other since they're falling out. And then we see that they're at the table with Mr. Purefoy. We see that Mr. Purefoy introduces himself to Amara like, call me Hunter. And she's like, Hunter it is. And then so then Mr. Purefoy introduces his wife Juniper, and we can tell Juniper is looking at Titus like a piece of meat that she's ready to take a bite out of. And then we also meet his daughter Lori. And Lori is even kind of looking at him, and he pretty much says that, Lori does public relations with Purefoy, with the Purefoy Corporation, and you and Titus will be working together closely. So they kind of chat or whatever, and then she goes off, and obviously, we see that that Amara definitely feels uncomfortable, so she kind of leaves and goes to the bar. My bad. That's before this happened. It's my bad. So we see that Lori and Titus talking because they're going to be working together because she does public relations for Purefoy Pharmaceuticals. Then they ask, they talk about Amara. She's like, she's a U.S. attorney. She works for the U.S. Attorney's Office. She was in Birmingham, and she's like, so that where you from? She's like, oh no, I'm originally from Houston, from the South Side. And then immediately that bitch Juniper was like, oh, it's nothing like seeing someone pull themselves from their own bootstraps. Liberal racism. And Amara caught it. That definitely rubbed her the wrong way. She's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the bar. And she just goes over. So she's like, okay, well, let us get better. And then Juniper's like, okay, well, let's get better acquainted with Titus here. I'm like, that daggone Juniper wants some of that black meat with her old nasty old ass. But anyway, so then we see that Rondell is actually catering the gala, and Peters comes over there fucking with her, and she's like, Peters, get the fuck away from me, what the hell you want? And then all of a sudden he eats her food, and it was like, well, it seems to me that this needs more sauce. And she's like, and you need to go straight to hell. And then Evans walks up, and I can actually say the tension between Peters and Rondell is really high. And their hatred is so high that it can easily become sexual. Because it's kind of obvious that Peters is kind of attracted to Rondell a little bit. You know, he definitely, he likes that fire. And you can tell that Peters is kind of turned on by it a little bit. And we can kind of see that Rondell, you know, because Peters, even though he's a white guy, he's actually very good looking. But, you know, Peters is an evil bastard. But, you know, sometimes that hatred can turn into some crazy sex. You know, I mean, me personally, I've never experienced that because I've never had sex with somebody I hated. But I've heard that, yes, sometimes hatred can really turn into a whole crazy sexual situation. And I'm kind of getting that vibe between them, that in a way, low-key, they kind of like are attracted to each other. And it's crazy. And then all of a sudden, he pretty much, you know, Evans kind of calls it off. And then all of a sudden, you know, he pretty much, you know, Evans makes a statement that, man, I'm going to miss having her around. And Evans was like, what the hell you mean by that shit? I'm like, he kind of putting it out there that he's willing to kill your sister so he can get that development on that block. So then we get a scene which literally flipped the script. Up in the ladies' room, I got a meeting in the ladies' room with Carly, who's Stephanie and Mayor Evans' daughter, and Lori, who's Mr. Purefoy's daughter. So they gotta go back and forth. Oh, great, the Lancaster princess. And then Carly's like, you know, I know that your family's here so they can just look less guilty. And she's like, oh my God, you sound just like your mother. And then Carly's like, look, my mother's just doing her job. It's like, no, your mother is trying to make a profit, you know, by building up by building some unsubstantial lawsuits. And, you know, these medications that we create actually have been, you know, the same medications actually help people, you know. And here it is, you know, Carly's like, spoken like a cheer Purefoy. And she was like, truth? What would you know about truth? And Carly was like, what you trying to say? Lori was saying, have you come out to mommy and daddy yet? I was like, ooh. And then all of a sudden we see that she takes Carly's phone, puts her number in it, like, my number's in your phone. You know, when you want to have a deeper conversation of living your truth, give me a call. And then she walks up onto Carly and literally licks her lip. And literally licks her lips and shit. And I was like, oh, Lori, you nasty bitch. So you and Carly been getting it in with each other. So we come to find out that Miss Carly's a lesbian, which is why she don't care for old boy Khalil, because she ain't into him. She's a closeted lesbian. And that's something that mommy and daddy nor grandma and grandpa know about. So this is going to be crazy. So we see that Amara is at the bar and she's talking to Rondell. Her and Rondell are connecting because Amara, you know, comes from, you know, she comes from the South Side. She know what it's like to be hood and to have soul food. They talking soul food and they getting along just as great. And she was saying, so she's like, so what's your name? She's like, Rondell Lancaster. She's like, oh, so are you related to the man? She's like, yeah, he's my brother. And he says, so that makes Stephanie, she's like, a pain in my ass. I was like, Rondell was giving me life. She's doing her thing. And then all of a sudden, we see that Stephanie appears. So this is the first time that Stephanie and Amara have interacted with each other in over 20 years. And, you know, and Rondell is there, and they pretty much revealed that they were sorority sisters. And she's like, oh yes, I taught Amara everything she knows. I mean, we share practically everything. I'm like, that damn Stephanie is so fucking shady because, and she's mainly talking about Titus, as we all know. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, we had some good times. And then Stephanie's like, yeah, and some bad ones as I can recall. And she says, and I see that you've met my nosy sister-in-law. And she's like, bitch, who you calling nosy? Like, Rondell do not like Stephanie at all, and she is just hardcore with it. And then all of a sudden we see that Titus shows up, and she's like, wow, the reunion is now complete. And she was like, wow, Titus, it was just like yesterday. Oh, wait a minute. We did see each other yesterday. And we see that damn Amara felt some kind of way about that shit. And then she says that, oh yeah, do you know that your husband is representing, Purifoy Pharmaceuticals? So we're going to be going up against each other in court. Oh, Amara was not liking that shit at all. And then all of a sudden we see that Evan shows up, and she introduces him, to Amara. He greets Amara, and then, she introduces him to Titus, and he says that, pleasure to meet you, Evan. And then he was like, I prefer Mayor Lancaster. I'm like, oh, so I was like, oh shit, he know who the fuck Titus is. So he definitely shaded one thing. She's like, oh yeah, Titus Hughes, ain't that the dude you dated in college? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, well, hey, old college boyfriend, new husband. Welcome to my city. And I was like, oh, this motherfucker is really trying to boss up because he feels threatened. And it was just hilarious to me. I was like, wow, this shit is crazy. So then we see, while during the actual gala, we see that Stephanie and Titus keep looking at each other. And I'm like, Then we see Lori and Carly connecting eyes because they messing around. We see that Juniper with her nasty old ass is looking at Titus like a piece of meat that she want to bite. And then we see that the mailer is kind of looking at Bella. And I'm like, what the hell's going on there? Because Bella was there with her date, Roderick. So we see that Irene, who's Stephanie's mother, she gets up and talks about that they've raised $500,000, in memory of their daughter Tracy. And we also find out that Stephanie also has a brother Adrian and a sister Samantha who weren't there, so we're probably going to meet them down the line. And then Mr. Purifoy interjects. He says that I want to help combat this horrible bondage of addiction. So he matches the $500,000. So means the donations for that event will be $1 million. So he practically just stole the show from Irene, just stole her thunder, and now there's been $1 million that's been donated, to this charity or whatever. And then all of a sudden we see that damn Steven, Stephanie's father, was like, I will fucking kill that son of a bitch before he cashed that check. And, pretty much they stopped him from getting up there because he was mad. Because he's been trying to go after Purifoy for years. They like arch enemies. So then we see that Bella and Roderick, they pretty much gonna call it a night and they leave. Titus and Amara, you can definitely feel the tension and shade going on between them, with this whole thing. Because, definitely Amara's clocking that Titus got his eyes on Stephanie. And then, like, all of a sudden, we see that Stephanie was like, oh, so tell me, this was your idea for, for him to, do this, give this big charity, contribution. She was like, yeah, it was my idea. It's like, oh, so it was also your idea for him to upstage my mother at her own event? He was like, look. And she's like, look, he wouldn't do anything like that. That's not Titus' style. Well, then again, it's like, well, we all know that Titus is capable of being wrong, But then she kind of says that, and then all of a sudden we see that Evan shows up, and she says, but yes, I have interests of definitely making sure that I'm going to tear down the Purifoys brick by brick, and I'm going to take them down. And he was like, and then Evan was like, oh, look at my wife getting turned on, legalized and everything. And then Titus was like, okay, we're gonna call it a night. And then damn Evans was like, night night. I was like, oh shit. Like, that damn Evans is a shady motherfucker, I swear. So when they get home, Amara and Titus, they get into it because she feels some kind of way that, why didn't you tell me that Titus and that you and Stephanie had met yesterday? And he was like, look, you know, we met for business. We're gonna be in court together. Like, so what? You know, I had to meet her any fucking way, so it is what it is. So what? And then she was like, I never should have told you I was pregnant. And he was like, huh? And she's like, that's why you married me. You know, shoot, after I lost the baby, you should have went back to her. And I'm like, oh, so this is another arranged situation, that you married her because you thought she was pregnant, you know, with your child that you lost. But then they end up having a daughter anyway, who's right now in boarding school. So he's like, so this is how the way you're gonna get back at me, you know, for Damien. And he was like, don't you dare project your bullshit onto me, Amara. I'm not the one who cheated. And then all of a sudden we see that she feels some kind of way. Boo Boo gets on the phone and calls Karen. Her name was Karen. I thought I said her name was Julie or something earlier. I got that wrong. She calls Karen and says, I had a change of heart. I'm going to take the case. So now she's coming after, you know, Mayor Evan Lancaster. So then we not only see that situation, we see that Stephanie and Evan behind closed doors is a totally different situation. They play like they the perfect couple. They are the it couple. They're the couple that everybody aspires to be. But behind closed doors, it is a shitty mess. You know, so she's kind of like, he's like, you know, is everything okay? And she's like, look, the show's over, okay? No need for small talk. Oh, so he's like, so I guess we saw the sweet side of Titus Hughes, huh? You know, I mean, and he just starts digging at our ass. He's like, so how does it feel that he dismissed you for your homegirl back in college? And then on top of it, and then he was saying that, so what are you going to do about, and then she comes back, it's like, yeah, and what about, you know, getting your idiot sister of yours to sell that restaurant? He's like, don't you come for my sister. And she was like, Greg Peters is my father's biggest client. So I'm like, damn, so Greg is pretty much cool with, you know, her father. So I'm like, Peters is involved in this shit deep too. And she's like, yeah, he's my biggest client. And she says that, and this whole thing is gonna make us a lot of money. So you need to get that fucking sister of yours in line, because we can't have nothing messing with that. And he was like, daddy's little princess. You know, maybe your problem with men is that you're too much in love with your father. She slapped the shit out of him. And then he was like, wow, there's the bitch we all know. And he pretty much says that, look, English Rose, which is Greg Peters' company, is going to make us a lot of money. So you get your hood rat ass sister in line to sell this shit, or I'ma step in. So all of a sudden he kind of slams her against the wall, and he's like, what you gonna do? Oh, I'ma tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna threaten, you're gonna pout, and you're gonna rage and go to daddy like you always do, like the incompetent nothing that you are. And I see that's why he won't hand over the firm to you, because you're pathetic and predictable. I was like, ooh. I'm like, damn, like, ain't no love in this marriage at all. So all of a sudden, he was like, so yeah. And if anything, if you weren't wasting all of your time kissing up to your daddy, you would have noticed your sister was turning into a junkie before it was too late. All of a sudden, you heard click, click, gun right to his damn head. She's like, oh, I'm predictable and I'm pathetic. What's Stephanie gonna do now? Huh? What you know? He's like, Stephanie put down the gun. She's like, you know what? Not only can I kill you, but they will never trace it. You know, they will never find your body. They will never even know you existed, and they won't even trace back to me. But I'm gonna let you know something. Speak to me like that again, and that will be the last word you utter. And she takes the gun off him, kisses him on his forehead, and walks out. That damn Stephanie's a ruthless bitch. Then, we see that Rondell is closing the store. Somebody came in, and she's saying we're closed, and it looks like somebody's about to attack her. But before they actually... So, pretty much, we see that Rondell's in danger at the store. While that's going on, we see that somebody's in the shower. This girl's in the shower getting her life. We come to find out that it's actually Bella, Stephanie's designer. And guess who gets in the shower with her? The fucking mayor. The mayor come in there all cocky and shit. He's like, oh, I saw you over there with that little punk that you brought to the damn gala. And he's like, you my woman, and don't you ever forget it. And he starts banging her out in the shower. And I'm like, oh, so he actually is cheating on Stephanie with her fucking costume designer. Wow. So I'm like, oh, bitch is playing games. This shit is crazy. Like, this is like a black version of Dynasty and Dallas and Knots Landing. This shit had me on the edge, and I was so here for it. But that's what I have, y'all. I'm sorry this thing is long, but I had to get through everything because I didn't want to miss a beat. But if I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of Ambitions. I am already an instant fan of this show. So until next time, everybody, take care.